Abul Fazl ibn Mubarak, 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 Mubarak. Abul Fazl ibn Mubarak, also known as AbulFazl, AbulFadl and AbulFadl Allami, 14 January 1551, 22 August 1602, was the Grand Vizier of the Mughal Emperor Akbar. He was the author of the Akbarnama, the official history of Akbar's reign in 3 volumes. The third volume is known as the Ain-i-Akbari, and a Persian translation of the Bible. He was also one of the 9 jewels Hindi, Navaratnas of Akbar's royal court, and the brother of Faizi, the poet laureate of Emperor Akbar. Ancestors. Abul Fazl ibn Mubarak's ancestors hailed from Yemen. However, it was common during the Delhi Sultanate and Mughal Empire for individuals to embellish their ancestral heritage to raise their stature. He was a descendant of Sheikh Musa, who lived in Rel near Suistan, Saywin, Sindh, until the close of the 15th century. His grandfather, Sheikh Khizr, moved to Nagaur, which had attained importance as a Sufi mystic center under Sheikh Hamid ud-Din Sufi Sali, a Khalifa of Sheikh Mu'in ud-Din Chisti of Ajmer. At Nagaur, Sheikh Khizr settled near the tomb of Sheikh Hamid ud-Din. Sheikh Mubarak Nagauri. Abul Fazl's father, Abul Fazl, was born in 1506 at Nagaur. Soon after Fazl's birth, Khizr traveled to Sindh to bring other members of his family. Khizr's death and a famine and plague that ravaged Nagaur caused great hardship to the destitute Mubarak and his mother. Despite these hardships, Mubarak's mother arranged a good education for him. One of Mubarak's earliest teacher was Sheikh Atan, who was known for his piety. Another important teacher who influenced Sheikh Mubarak was Sheikh Faizi, a disciple of Khwaja Ubaidullah Rr. Later, he went to Ahmedabad and studied under Sheikh Abul Fazl Ghazruni, who adopted him as a son, Sheikh Umar and Sheikh Yusuf. Yusuf advised Mubarak to go to Agra and set up a madrasa there. Mubarak reached Agra in April 1543, and on the suggestion of Sheikh Balal set up his residence at Charbagh, which was built by Babur on the left bank of Yamuna. Mir Rafi ad-Din Safavi of Injushiraz lived close by, and Mubarak married a near relative of his. Mubarak established his madrasa in Agra, where his special field of instruction was philosophy, and he attracted a number of scholars to his lectures, such as Mullah Abdul Qadir Badani. He also spent some time in Badon, holy land of Sufism. The orthodox group of ulama criticized Mubarak and accused him of changing his views. Khwaja Ubaidullah, who was brought up in the house of Sheikh Mubarak's daughter, was of the opinion that Mubarak's views changed with the change in the political climate, and he adopted the religious attitudes of rulers and nobles of those days out of expediency. For example, he was a Sunni during the reign of Sultan Ibrahim Lodi, became a Naqshbandi during the Sur period, was a Mahdaviya during the reign of Humayun, and a protagonist of liberal thought under Akbar. Biography. Sheikh Mubarak's first son, the poet Abul Faizi, and his second son, Abul Fazl, were born in Agra. Abul Fazl's education began with Arabic, and by the age of 5 he could read and write. His father started teaching him about all the branches of Islamic sciences Manqulat, but Fazl could not adhere to conventional learning, and he sank in a state of mental depression. A friend rescued him from this state, and he resumed his studies. Some incidents from his early life reflect on his brilliance. A dictionary of Ishafani, which had been eaten by white ants, came under his observation. He removed the parts that had been eaten and joined blank paper to the rest. He discovered the beginning and end of each fragment and eventually penned a draft text. Subsequently, the entire work was discovered, and on comparison to Fazl's draft, the original differed in only 2 or 3 places. He came to Akbar's court in 1575 and was influential in Akbar's religious views, becoming more liberal into the 1580s and 1590s. In 1599, Abul Fazl was given his first office in the Deccan, where he was recognized for his ability as a military commander, leading the Mughal imperial army in its wars against the Deccan sultanates. Akbar also records witnessing the passage of the Great Comet of 1577. AbulFazl's own account of his first 20 years. The following is the AbulFazl's own account of his first 20 years from the Ain-i-Akbari. As I have now recounted somewhat of my ancestors, I proceed to say a few words regarding myself and thus unburden my mind, to refresh this narrative and loosen the bonds of my tongue. In the year 473 of the Jalali era, corresponding to the night of Sunday, the 6th of Muharram 958 of the lunar reckoning 14 January 1551, my pure spirit joined to this elemental body came forth from the womb into this fair expanse of the world. At a little over 1 year, I had the miraculous gift of fluent speech, and at 5 years of age I had acquired an unusual stock of information and could both read and write. At the age of 7, I became the treasurer of my father's stores of knowledge, and a trusty keeper of the jewels of hidden meaning, and as a serpent guarded the treasure. And it was strange that by a freak of fortune my heart was disinclined, my will ever averse, and my disposition repugnant to conventional learning and the ordinary courses of instruction. Generally I could not understand them. My father in his way conjured with the spell of knowledge, and taught me a little of every branch of science, and although my intelligence grew, I gained no deep impressions from the school of learning. Sometimes I understood nothing at all. At others doubts suggested themselves which my tongue was incapable of explaining. Either shame made me hesitate, or I had not the power of expression. I used to weep in public and put all the blame upon myself. In this state of things I came into fellowship of mind with a congenial helper, and my spirit recovered from that ignorance and incomprehension. Not many days had elapsed before his conversation and society induced me to go to college, and there they restored to rest my bewildered and dissipated mind, and by the wondrous working of destiny they took me away and brought another. The temple as I entered drew they nigh, and brought their gift, a wine-cup brimming high. Its strength snatched all my senses, self from self, wherein some other entered and not I. The truths of philosophy and the subtleties of the schools now appeared plain, and a book which I had never before seen gave me a clearer insight than anything I could read. Although I had a special gift which came down upon me from the throne of holiness, yet the inspirations of my venerable father, and his making me commit to memory the essential elements of every branch of science, together with the unbroken continuity of this chain, were of immense help, and became one of the most important causes of my enlightenment. For 10 years longer I made no distinction between night and day teaching and learning, and recognized no difference between satiety and hunger, nor discriminated between privacy and society, nor had I the power to dissever pain from pleasure. I acknowledged nothing else but the bond of demonstration and the tie of knowledge. Those who had a regard for my constitution, from seeing that 2 and sometimes 3 days passed without my taking food, and that my studious spirit had no inclination therefore, were amazed, and stood out strongly against it. I answered that my withdrawal was now a matter of habit and custom, and how was it that no one was astonished when the natural inclination of a sick man on an attack of illness was averse from food? If therefore my love of study induced forgetfulness, where was the wonder? Most of the current arguments of the schools, frequently misquoted and misunderstood when heard, and abstruse questions from ancient works had been presented to the fresh tablet of my mind. Before these points had been elucidated, and the attribution to me of extreme ignorance had passed to that of transcendent knowledge, I had taken objection to ancient writers, and men learning my youth dissented, and my mind was troubled, and my inexperienced heart was in agitation. Once in the early part of my career they brought the gloss of Khyj Abul-Qasim on the Mutawwil. All that I had stated before learned doctors and divines, of which some of my friends had taken notes, was there found, and those present were astounded, and withdrew their dissent, and began to regard me with other eyes, and to raise the wicket of misunderstanding, and to open the gate of comprehension. In my early days of study, the gloss of Isfahani, more than half of which had been eaten by white ants, came under my observation. The public being in despair at profiting by it, I removed the parts that had been eaten and joined blank paper to the rest. In the serene hours of morning, with a little reflection, I discovered the beginnings and endings of each fragment and conjecturally penned a draft text which I transcribed on the paper. In the meanwhile the entire work was discovered, and when both were compared, in 2 or 3 places only were there found differences of words, though synonymous in meaning, and in 3 or 4 others, differing citations, but approximate in sense. All were astounded. The more my will was engaged, the more my mind was illumined. At the age of 20 the good tidings of my independence reached me. My mind cast off its former bonds, and my early bewilderment recurred. With a parade of much learning, the intoxication of youth effervescing, the skirts of pretension spread wide, and the world displaying cup of wisdom in my hand, the ringings of delirium began to sound in my ears, and suggested a total withdrawal from the world. Meanwhile, the wise Prince Regnant called me to mind, and drew me from my obscurity, somewhat of which I have in its entirety, and somewhat but approximately suggested and acknowledged. Here my coin has been tested and its full weight passed into currency. Men now view me with a different regard, and many effusive speeches have been made amid felicitous congratulations of oath. On this day, which is the last of the 42nd year of His Majesty's reign A.D. 1598, my spirit again breaks away from its yoke and a new solicitude arises within me. My songster heart knows not King David's strains. Let it go free, 'tis no bird for a cage. I know not how it will all end, nor in what resting place my last journey will have to be made, but from the beginning of my existence until now the grace of God has continuously kept me under its protection. It is my firm hope that my last moments may be spent in doing His will, and that I may pass unburdened to eternal rest. Assassination/Death. Works. The Akbarnama. The Akbarnama is a document of history of Akbar's reign and his ancestors spread over 3 volumes. It contains the history of Akbar's ancestors from Timur to Humayun, Akbar's reign up to the 46th regnal year 1602, and an administrative report of Akbar's empire, the Ain-i-Akbari, which itself is in 3 volumes. The 3rd volume of Ain-i-Akbari gives an account of the ancestry and life of the author. The Ain-i-Akbari was completed in the 42nd regnal year, but a slight addition was made to it in the 43rd regnal year on the account of the conquest of Berar. Ruqat. The Ruqat, or the Ruqat-i AbulFazl, is a collection of private letters from Abul-Fazl to Murad, Daniel Akbar, Maryam Makani, Salam Jahangir, Akbar's queens and daughters, his father, mother, and brothers, and several other notable contemporaries, compiled by his nephew Nur al-Din Mohammed. Insha-i AbulFazl. The Insha-i AbulFazl, or the Maktubat-i Allami, contains the official dispatches written by AbulFazl. It is divided into 2 parts. The first part contains Akbar's letters to Abdullah Khan Beg of Turan, Shah Abbas of Persia, Raja Ali Khan of Khandesh, Burhan ul-Mulk of Ahmednagar, and his own nobles, such as Abdur Rahim Khan Khanan. The second part consists of AbulFazl's letters to Akbar, Daniel, Mirza Shah Rukh, and Khan Khanan. This collection was compiled by Abda Samad, son of Afzal Mohammed, who claims that he was AbulFazl's sister's son as well as his son-in-law. Governance and sovereignty. AbulFazl in the political sphere was concerned with social stability. In his Ain-i-Akbari, he presented a theory of sovereignty promised on social contract. His divine theory of Padshahat present the concept of royalty. According to him, Padshahat meant an established owner, where Pad stands for stability and Shah stands for owner. Padsha, therefore, is the established owner who cannot be eliminated by anyone. According to AbulFazl, Padsha has been sent by God, who works as an agent of God for the welfare of his subjects and maintains peace and harmony in his empire. With respect to sovereignty, AbulFazl considered it to be present in nature. The king established his sovereignty through his absolute power. He had the final authority in governance, administration, agriculture, education, and other fields. According to AbulFazl, it was impossible to challenge the king and nobody could share his power. So I call the doctrine of peace. AbulFazl said that sovereignty was not restricted to a particular faith. As the king was considered an agent of God, he cannot discriminate among various faiths present in society, and in case the king discriminates on the basis of caste, religion, or class, then he would not be considered a just king. Sovereignty was not linked to any particular faith. AbulFazl promoted the good values of different religions and assembled them for the maintenance of peace. He provided relief to people by making them free from bound thoughts. He also justified the views of Akbar by presenting him as a rational ruler